Welcome to Hard Truths with Hardy. As promised, we are starting our series about how to buy a home. Today's part one, but before we get into it, let's talk about what fun things are going on. Fortunately, living in Knoxville, I think we get some very fun events that happen in our city. We're not a huge city. I would say we're maybe moderate sized. Bingo Loco is coming this weekend, and I'm stoked. It is like bingo on steroids, kind of a rave environment. I've never been. This is my first time, but I've seen it advertised, and everybody that comments on Bingo Loco talks about how great it is. So it's at Bridgewater this weekend on Saturday. It's completely sold out unless you can find somebody reselling tickets. So I'll give you an update next time on how that went. Of course, by the time this comes out, it'll be a couple weeks later, so I'll have already been. Keep that in mind, but I'm going to let you know how fun it is. So today we'll talk about the home buying process, and really today we're going to talk about the beginning of that process. So a lot of times people call me and they'll say, I want to buy a home, and they're looking 2 years out. And I'm always like, why are we looking 2 years out? Because the homes that are available today aren't going to be available then. If you're thinking about moving to a new town and you're thinking 2 years out, in some ways I can understand that. But the part that I understand is making some visits to that town and determining what part of town you like. That's really the first step in relocating to another place. And unless you're on just an extremely short timeline, you should always make a visit, check out different parts of the area, maybe find some homes online that you like. I wouldn't set up showings and go look at those because that's a waste of time, but perhaps drive by those homes. See if the area is one you think you might want to live in. If you have a family, what are the schools like? Do you think it's a safe place to live? Are you close enough to shopping, dining, medical, all the things that are important to you? But if you're really wanting to start your home search and you need to move sooner than 2 years, my suggestion would be to start looking at least 60 days out. And the reason I say 60 days out is because even if we contracted on a home today, unless you're paying cash, you're looking at about a 30-day close, sometimes a little longer depending on loan type. But 30 days in our area is a pretty normal amount of time to get a house closed. So that would give us 30 days to look for a house. Sometimes we can do it sooner. Sometimes it takes a little longer. But we could generally get that done in 60 days. Something to take into consideration, though, is your personality and your decision-making skills. If you're somebody that has to think about something for a long time, then you probably want to start a little bit sooner, considering where you want to live, what's important to you in a home. Good example, I sold a house recently to some friends of mine that I absolutely adore, but their decision-making process could not be more different. One of them makes quick decisions, and the other one will take a month to make a decision. And that was hard. It's a little hard to get through. We had to kind of push her along a little bit to make decisions so that we could get things done. So give that some thought. Getting a pre-approval is very helpful. I think sometimes there's a misconception about getting a pre-approval. People think the agent is really just trying to determine, oh, how much can I sell them a house for? If they're pre-approved for $450, I'm going to sell them one for $450 because I want to make more money. We're asking for a pre-approval for 2 reasons, maybe 3. One, because knowing your type of financing is extremely important. Not every home qualifies for all types of financing. For example, a home that's what we would consider a fixer-upper may not qualify for FHA or VA financing. Each of those loan types has a list of conditions as far as what shape the home is in that it must pass in order for that financing to go through. The appraiser for that home can actually go into the house and require that certain repairs must be done, or you can't purchase that home. That's why we want to know what type of financing you're getting. There's no point in us searching homes if you're an FHA buyer and sending you homes that only qualify for either a conventional financing purchase or cash. So we want to get that financing type right and hone down to what you're really looking for. Of course, there's the obvious. We want to help set a budget. Our goal is not to get you into a home that you're not comfortable with the budget. It's important to me that you not be what we would call house poor. I want you to be very comfortable with the monthly amount that you're going to be paying. So it's good to talk about that up front. Another good example would be, let's say your budget's $350,000. People will call and want to walk into a $450,000 home because they think we can negotiate it down. The likelihood of negotiating a home down $100,000 is not very good. So we want to get you into a home you'll like, because when I take you in a $450,000 home and then you realize you can't afford it, and we go look at a $350,000 home, a lot of times you're heartbroken because you couldn't get that home that was a little bit nicer. And that's a tough position for us to be in. We want you to be happy. We don't want you to be heartbroken. So budget is important too. And the third reason, and the obvious reason, is no one wants to waste their time going to look at houses that aren't true possibilities, right? Your time is important. My time is important. So we want to be working toward the same goal, not wasting time. So just be courteous of other people. A little trick I like to use when I'm showing homes to clients, especially if we're looking at, let's say we're looking at 8 or more homes in a day. When you get out and you start looking at that many homes, one right after another, it's really easy to get mixed up on, okay, is that the one with the white cabinets and the gray and white countertops, or is that the one that had wood cabinets? Super easy to get mixed up. So a couple things that I do to make that easier for my clients is I bring the listing brief, and I don't bring it necessarily because we need to see every detail on there. I bring it so that my client can make notes on there about what they like and what they don't like. And then at the end of the day, it's easy to look at that and remember, oh, okay, I know which house this was. It was not one I liked. Or, oh, yes, this was top of my list. The other thing I do to make it easier is every time we finish a house, we look at the first house, we talk about what they liked, what they didn't like. We go to the second house, and at the end, we talk about what we liked, what we didn't like. And then I say, how would you compare this to the house before it? Would this one be your first choice or your second choice? And we continue that all day long so that by the end of the day, they have a clear picture in their mind of what house is on the first position of their list, second position, third position. And that's okay to have a top 3 because maybe the first one doesn't work out. But it is important to remember which one you liked and to help make it clear so that you're not confused at the end of the day. The home buying process doesn't need to feel scary. Your agent is there to help you work through it and make it easier for you. And a lot of us have tips and tricks to make it easier, just like I explained. We don't want you to do it alone. That's why we're here. I'm always available and ready to help you find your way home. Join us again for part 2 when we really get into the contract and what it entails to write up an offer. Did you know the buyer has contractual obligations and timelines to meet? If you want to know more about that, check out part 2. And as always, you can find us on Spotify and on YouTube, or you can click the link from any of our social media to check out Hard Truths with Hardy. See you next time.